This is Tar Heel Talk, an in-depth look at the issues and people making news in North Carolina. Here's your host, Sonia Williams.
From colorful jazz portraits to iconic North Carolina landscapes, today's guest is making his mark quite literally in the world of visual arts. And joining me now to tell us more about his work is Eric McRae, artist and entrepreneur. Eric, welcome to Tar Heel Talk.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
You have a wide range of style in your work. How would you describe your art?
Well, my art fundamentally is about color and sensuality. And with everything I paint, I tend to paint things that people already know, but I try to paint them in a way they've never seen them before. So in the process, I may paint jazz or a landscape or a heart or some image that they're familiar with, but I always put a spin on it, something that's really memorable that you can then, when you see the initial image, after that you dig in a little bit deeper and then deeper and deeper. So that's always what I'm trying to connect with people on an emotional and I would say almost a spiritual level.
So it's all about trying to make some connections with your work.
Correct. I'm not trying to make art always to try to elude the public or separate myself from people, but how can I connect with people and pull people into the experience of enjoying art? As Americans, we're very familiar with film, music, popular music, but when you talk about certain things like the visual arts and certain different cultural experiences, most Americans are kind of, well, I don't get it, or I don't understand, or I don't want to be embarrassed by talking about this. So I've made it a personal endeavor to connect with people, explain these things, demystify art, where they can kind of involve it into their homes and their lives, and especially involve their children in the arts.
Now, you've brought along some images of some of your pieces, and you have them kind of grouped by themes. One of my favorites is, because I'm a North Carolina girl, some of those iconic places throughout North Carolina. I'm going to take a look at some of that work, the landscapes of North Carolina, and talk a little bit about some of these.
Well, specifically, this piece is downtown Raleigh, and that's the, they call it the PNC, no, one of the banks now, and they keep switching names. But fundamentally, that's City Market, and you see Explorers there. And so as originally from Washington, D.C., I came to North Carolina. My father is a North Carolinian, so I have heritage in North Carolina, and raised in Washington, D.C., came here. So I then took on the goal, or the, I guess, adventure of exploring North Carolina and really learning a lot about North Carolina culture and places. So through a good part of North Carolina, especially eastern North Carolina, I've painted there and all the way down into South Carolina. So it's a plethora of images I've painted.
When you look for inspiration in your paintings, what are some of the things that inspire you?
I look at my art as my diary. So basically, when I create, it has to first connect with me, and then I kind of interpret that image or that reality or that experience, and then I pour it out and then empty myself of images to the next person. So fundamentally, I have to be excited about it. I have to be excited about the image.
I'm definitely excited about this image. I think anybody who goes to downtown Raleigh and you see that hot,
that's Raleigh, North Carolina's Statue of Liberty. So people love Krispy Kreme, and that's, you know, quintessential North Carolina image. And in my work, I've involved images like of a Cheerwine or just North Carolina coastal things that people really connect to, that feel close to home.
Now, you mentioned that you're from D.C.
Yeah, born and raised.
I can imagine that you, having been living in our nation's capital, raised in our nation's capital, had been exposed to quite a bit of art.
Yes. Very young, I went to school in the D.C. public school system, and had the good fortune to be taken to the National Gallery and the Corcoran and different museums when I was really young, and being able to see works of art that many traveled all the way around the world to see. And for us, it was merely a bus ride away. And I didn't take that for granted, and so I spent many hours studying those works really close up and trying to understand the mastery of these works. And then now, those things internalized, I try to pour that back out into my own work.
At what point did you realize that you wanted to be an artist?
I knew I was an artist when I was probably 5 or 6 years old.
Really?
Yeah, it was really early on. I was in first grade, and a teacher asked who would help with the bulletin board, and no one seemed really interested. And I raised my hand, and the teacher selected me, and I created something with Rumpelstiltskin. That was the assignment. She needed someone with Rumpelstiltskin. I don't remember what it looked like, but I remember her expression, how her eyes lit up. And then she ran off and brought back other teachers who saw my work, and then they were just amazed by my talents. Well, as a young person, I was enjoying myself. I was just having fun. But then I knew my joy had a greater impact beyond myself.
Right.
And I knew I could impact other people's lives as well. And it was like a Sir Isaac Newton epiphany for me. And then it just kind of let me understand that I had a gift and a talent. And a lot of what I do with my life now is to inspire other people to say, hey, you have the permission to have the audacity to go after what you want in life. And it's okay. And so that's how I've lived my life.
Absolutely. And you've been a mentor to up and coming artists as well.
Yes. I proudly and oddly say that I'm old enough now that some of the young people I mentored when they were in high school have taught my children in school. So they've grown up, kids I've, I guess, mentored, educated, have gone on to teach my children art in Wake County Public Schools. And many of these young people have gone on to be professionals. One young lady now works for PlayStation, another works for Kohl's. Another young man's a graphic designer in Charlotte. Another young lady went on to be a hair designer, really kind of elaborate, artful hair design. So these are all young people that mentored, interned with me when they're high school and have gone off to build careers.
Right. And you were part of laying the foundation and sparking that love for art for those students. Well,
it's when I was young, I had the good fortune to have people care enough to instill a richness and a wisdom in me. So I felt there's my obligation to return that to others and continue that chain of blessing other people and enriching other people. And I've never regretted it.
How can people find out more information about your work?
Well, I like to say the World Wide Web. So you can go to ericmcrae.com. See my works there. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and different social media outlets, but primarily my website, ericmcrae.com.
And your studio is right here in downtown Raleigh as well. So
yeah, I've had a studio in downtown Raleigh at Art Space for now 18 years. And I've seen many artists come and go, but I've been very fortunate to be able to maintain a career and build a following for my work. And I have many collectors who nationally and internationally. And a lot of folks here in North Carolina have been just so good to me. And so my studio's in Art Space, and I paint there, I create there, and exhibit my work there as well.
And we can see a number of your pieces throughout the Triangle in a lot of prominent spaces.
Oh yeah, I work in collection of SAS, the American Tobacco Campus, Duke, UNC, State. I don't take sides.
Because you're from DC, that's okay.
That's not my fight, So everyone picks I've been very fortunate, and I've worked in North Carolina Central's universities, art museum, and other corporate and private collections.
Okay, we're going to take a break. We'll talk more in just a minute.
This is awesome.
We'll be back with more on Eric McRae after these messages. North Carolina art enthusiasts don't have to look far to find a local artist who is making an impact on our state and beyond. And with us again is artist and entrepreneur Eric McRae. Eric, before the break, you were talking about, the passion that you had for art and how you're working to help mentor young artists across the state. I want to talk now a little bit about your business and how you've been able to turn your art and your work into a business.
I will say first and foremost, my mother. was a great inspiration to me. My father was an entrepreneur. He owned a cab company in Washington, D.C. called Coastline Cabs. And my mother was a great inspiration to me. And I came from a family of people who work with their hands, contractors and plumbers and house painters. And they worked me so hard as a young person. I said, oh, gee, I don't want to do this, right? but the point was that I knew that with my talents, I had ability to be able to make a career of it. And that's what I was told. You can do this. So that reinforcement in the family and the household made a world of a difference. So when I faced a world that could be very cynical or very critical, I knew that I had a support system. And so my mother always was there with me as a big support. And I lost her this past year. And I appreciate that. And so that was a big part of it. So then when I had the good fortune to obtain a scholarship to college, and because of my talents, and had a degree in art. And I worked very young for graphic designers, and I worked in design studios and did cartooning and worked for a comic book company and did painting backdrops for photographers. And, you know, whatever I could put my hand to, that's what I did to learn and to build my skill set. So I knew that's what I wanted to do very young. And at a certain point, I worked in corporate America and learned certain skills there as well. So I'm always saying, you know, you're adding tools to your tool belt.
Right.
So when I decided to go back to my art full time and to build McRae Studios, it was a matter of first making a decision. This is what I'm going to do, and make a commitment, and then working as hard for myself as I had worked for other people. I felt like I deserve that. If they deserved my effort, I felt I deserved it just as much for me.
Absolutely.
So I fired my employer many years ago, and I literally turned in my 2-week notice on a piece of pink paper. I gave them their pink slip, and I went full time as an artist, and I hit the ground running, and never looked back. And a lot of it is understanding business, understanding relation to people. Creating quality work, which is the main thing, quality work, and then having a work ethic where I wasn't just driven by the muse, so to speak. You know, oh, it's raining today, I can paint. Oh, if it's sunny, I can't paint. I'm not that kind of artist. I had a lot of friends who were in the military, and they were always like, we ran 5 miles every day. And I asked one day, I said, were you ever inspired when you ran that 5 miles? They said, never inspired. It's like, this is what we have to do.
Right.
So I think the discipline is a big part of success in any fashion, regardless of what you decide to do, is that commitment, work ethic, and discipline.
Well, your commitment and discipline and work ethic is evident in your artwork. I want to talk a little bit now about the Heart series. That is a series that has lots of North Carolina connections and some very special connections.
Yeah. In this piece here that I voted, obviously we've gone through the election year, and I was always taught that you voted regardless. There was tremendous sacrifices it took throughout our history to have that right. So this piece specifically addressed that concept and that action. Each piece is kind of like little snippets. I emptied my head of images and thoughts, and my mother had a garden with sunflowers in as a child, so that was kind of homage to my mother, and so that's where those came from. And each of these paintings are only 6 by 6 inches. They're really small paintings, so when I display them as a grid, where you have a whole wall of maybe 50 to 100 or more of these gridded across a wall. And then so they kind of build a sense of an installation. The NC State, the Krispy Kreme, you know, those are local icons, things that we see and people enjoy, and then you kind of delve into it. What is the history of these things? And so I enjoy history, and I enjoy kind of exploring society and people's reactions to things. So that's where those images come from. And they're simply just some quite lovely piece. I took fabrics and paint and all these things I kind of assembled together to make these unique works.
And that leads me to my next question, because I know very little about art. Looks like from the paintings you have here in the studio, you work with acrylic paint
acrylic
on
paint.
canvas.
These are canvases.
And you combine that with the fabric in some cases?
It depends on the particular piece. I'm a painter and collagist. So in my collages, they're mixed media works of paper, photography, painting, drawing. I'll literally take images from things I've created over the many years I've been painting. I've been creating art from many years, right? So,
since first grade.
Yeah, since way back then. So I'm taking my own images, and then I will print those images and then disassemble them and reconstruct them into new images. So I kind of appropriate my own images, my own concepts. And so those my collages encompass all those kind of materials. And my paintings, whether abstract, landscapes, jazz, are usually acrylics on canvas. And that's direct kind of application of paint, expressionistic brushstroke, dynamic color, these kind of things stir the soul, not to be poetic, but that's the kind of result that happens.
And you were saying that, they tell a deeper story. Looking at this, it's someone playing an instrument, but it's more than that.
Correct. I mean, here, first thing I'm shooting for is a connection with the viewer when they interpret those colors and those marks. And some people look at that very literal and say, oh, that's confetti. And the next person will say, well, that's a metaphor for sound. So what I'm trying to do is paint sound. I'm trying to paint music with paint. That way, you are not necessarily just looking at the person, but you're looking at the music itself, if music was visible.
Nice.
And that's what I'm trying to do. So when you look into color, you say, well, I feel this way. And this is part of a new series of works I started. They sold quickly, so I don't have any right now, but I'm in the process of starting a new body of work. They're all these songstress. And here we go, just the history of ladies just expressing themselves through music.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's beautiful. And definitely, like you said, telling a story, you want to paint the music. I love that.
And the jazz work is very much Americana, jazz being, originating in America and part of the African-American experience of things we contributed to this country and culture. So those works kind of encompass all of that. It can be as simple as like, ooh, that's pretty, and that's okay, or as rich as all the different history and individuals help to create that art form.
Absolutely. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we want to talk a little bit about how you're using your work to help families in need.
Okay, yes.
We'll be back with more Tar Heel Talk after these messages. My guest today is artist and entrepreneur Eric McRae. Eric, thank you again for being with us.
This is
It has
awesome.
been a pleasure just
Yes.
looking at your beautiful artwork.
Thank you for having me here.
But in addition to being a tremendously talented professional artist,
I like you.
You also work to help others
Yes.
learn how to
Yes.
paint.
Yes,
Tell us about that.
I work on I teach classes once a week at the Cary Art Center, and I've been there roughly a year or more. Early on in my career, I did a lot of teaching to young people through the YMCA and groups like that, and then I wanted to, later in my career, when I felt like I was a much more seasoned artist, I didn't want to go into any form of education without that experience, real world experience. And so now I teach at Cary Art Center, I teach some at Art Space, Jerry's Artorama, I teach individual classes, teach workshops, and also group workshops.
Okay, so do you have to be somewhat talented to benefit from your class, or is it for the novice as well?
Well, my teaching method is that I'm always looking for the missing link for someone's individual experience.
Okay.
So as long as the artist is a step higher than what they initiated, that's okay. They don't have to be Picasso or Rembrandt when they leave, but the point is you may start here and you grow there. So I'll teach young people, I've taught seniors, people with special needs, typical population, professionals, beginners, it doesn't really matter. The point is that you have that passion and a drive, and once again, coachable. That's a big part of teaching anybody, is are they willing to listen and take instruction.
All right, and people can find out more about the classes that you offer by going to your website?
My website, and also going to the Cary Art Center's website, and also Jerry's Artorama teach workshops there, group workshops.
Okay, and your website is ericmcrae.com.
ericmcrae.com. And ericmcrae.com, I'll have a lot of links there. And also Facebook. Facebook's a big hub for a lot of information I disseminate.
Okay. Now you're also working to partner with organizations to help those living with autism.
Yes.
Tell us about that new project.
Well, over the years, I've been, a friend called me an art philanthropist. But I believe in being generous. I've been very blessed, very fortunate, so I share. So I've worked with a lot of groups over the years, and some have been fantastic, and others always had this question mark in my head. Are they doing what they're supposed to do? So me being the kind of self-starter I am, so I'm starting a new body of work. It's going to be at least 50 or more pieces addressing autism and autism awareness. And I'm going to partner with some organization that has not been determined as of yet. I've worked with Tammy Lynn Center here in Raleigh, and potentially whoever may be interested. And these 50 pieces will be, I'll have some interns who also are autistic partner with me to assist me in creating these works. And these works will then be sold or auctioned or whatever we decide to do at that time. And the proceeds, a good portion of those proceeds will go to that organization.
Right, to help families
Yes.
living with autism, because it can be a challenge
Yes.
finding the right services.
My key objective is to help families learn about the importance of intervention. And having worked with children with autism and seeing people who are in denial about what they're struggling with their child, they're just shy, and they may be shy, but the point is that these concerns are there, and it's best to address them early and help turn that situation. If it can be altered, the best of their ability, and once again, it's about that acceptance. So partnering these families with institutions that can really help them will be a big part of that. And also creating the finances to continue to support these groups where these things are available to the community.
Very worthwhile. We have about a minute left in the program. I want to give you the last word on your art. What do you hope that people take away from an art experience looking at your pieces?
Art is fun. It's something you can enjoy and enrich yourself. It kept me out of a lot of trouble when I was a young man. It helped me to find my sense of identity as I grew older. It has been very, at times, lucrative, and many times I've really struggled because I loved it so much that I only did it because I loved it, because it wasn't, I wasn't gaining financially from it, but it was what I was supposed to do. I really felt that it's a talent from God. So with exercising my talents, I am in that moment giving appreciation to God for my gifts I have.
And a word to an aspiring artist.
Have a thick skin, be level-headed, work hard, keep it fun.
Excellent advice. And how can people find out more information about your work and the projects you have coming up? Visit
ericmcrae.com and visit me on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
Okay, and on your website, I love that you have a link where you can actually purchase things like T-shirts with your work on it. So you really are taking your work and expanding.
Oh yeah, and you can go to my website and you can collect originals as well as other merchandise, and you can sign up for my newsletter for upcoming events.
What has been the best part of being a part of the Raleigh community and painting all the wonderful places in North Carolina?
People. People are very kind, very loving, and very appreciative. And I've never felt neglected. The people who collect my work, I've truly seen their lives enriched. And that, what better gift is that? That's not what I was expecting. Initially, it was just I was having fun. And then all of a sudden, it kind of spilled over. And other people were enriched by it as well, so I'm thankful.
Well, your pieces are absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
We certainly thank you for taking the time to share your work with us, and not just with us, but then also reaching out to the community to help other people in need. I think that's it speaks to your character and your passion for the community. All right, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm very appreciative. Thank you.
That's it for this week's Tar Heel Talk. To comment on this or other episodes of the show, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, or send us an email to tarheeltalk@fox50.com. I'm Sonia Williams. We'll see you again next week.